ASMR, finish above the ring. I was thinking so, said Frodo, but we have got to try and get there. And it won't be done by sitting and thinking. So I'm afraid we must be going. Thank you very much indeed for your kindness. I've been in terror of you and your dogs for over 30 years, Farmer Maggot. Though you may laugh to hear it, it's a pity, for I've missed a good friend. And now I'm sorry to leave so soon, but I'll come back. Perhaps one day, if I get a chance. You'll be welcome when you come, said Maggot. But now I've a notion. It's near sundown already, and we're going to have our supper, for we mostly go to bed soon after the sun. If you and Mr. Peregrine and all could stay and have a bite with us, we would be pleased. Please like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. And so should we, said Frodo. But we must be going at once, I'm afraid. Even now, it will be dark. ASMR, Jessica Mahoney. Before we can reach the ferry. But wait a minute. I was going to say, after a bit of supper, I'll get out a small wagon and I'll drive you all to the ferry. That will save you a good step, and it might also save you the trouble of another sort. Frodo now accepted the invitation gratefully, to the relief of Pippin and Sam. The sun was already behind the western hills, and the light was failing. 2 of Maggot's sons and his 3 daughters came in, and a generous supper was laid on the large table. The kitchen was lit with candles, and the fire was mended. Mrs. Maggot bustled in and out. 1 or 2 other hobbits belonging to the farm household came in a short while. 14 sat down to eat. There was beer in plenty. Please like and subscribe. Thanks so much for watching. There was beer in plenty and a mighty dish of mushrooms and bacon, besides much other solid farmhouse fare. Dogs lay by the fire and gnawed rinds and cracked bones. When they had finished, the farmer and his sons went out with a lantern and got the wagon ready. It was dark in the yard when the guests came out. They threw their packs on board and climbed in. The farmer sat in the driving seat and whipped out his 2 stout ponies. His wife stood in the light of the open door. You be careful of yourself, Maggot, she called. Don't go arguing with any foreigners, and come straight back. I will, said he, and drove out of the gate. There was now no breath of wind stirring. The night was still and quiet, and a chill was in the air. They went without lights and took it slowly. After a mile or 2, the lane came to an end, crossing a deep dike and climbing a short slope on the high-banked causeway. Thanks so much for watching. Please like and subscribe. This is page 126. It was 5 miles or more from Maggot's Lane to the ferry. The hobbits wrapped themselves up. Their ears were strained for any sound above the creak of the wheels and the slow clop of the ponies' hooves. The wagon seemed slower than a snail to Frodo. Beside him, Pippin was nodding forwards towards sleep, but Sam was staring forwards into the rising fog. They reached the entrance of the ferry lane at last. It was marked by 2 tall white posts that suddenly loomed up on their right. Farmer Maggot drew in his ponies, and the wagon creaked to a halt. They were just beginning to scramble out when suddenly they heard what they had all been dreading. Hooves on the road ahead. The sound was coming towards them. Maggot jumped down and stood holding the ponies' heads and peering forward into the gloom. Clip, clop, clip, clop came the approaching rider. The fall of the hooves sounded loud in the still. Thanks so much for watching. Page 126. You'd better be hidden, Mr. Frodo, said Sam anxiously. You get down in the wagon and cover up with blankets. And we'll send the rider to the right-abouts. He climbed out and went to the farmer's side. Black riders would have to ride over him to get near the wagon. Clop, 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 clop. The rider was nearly on them. Hello there, called Farmer Maggot. The advancing hooves stopped short. They thought they could dimly guess a dark cloaked shape in the mist, a yard or 2 ahead. Now then, said the farmer, throwing the reins to Sam, striding forward. Don't you come a step closer. What do you want? I want Mr. Baggins. Where are you going? Have you seen him? Said a muffled voice. The voice was the voice of Mary Brandybuck. A dark lantern was uncovered. Its light fell Thanks so much for watching. Please like and subscribe. This is page 126 and 127. Its light fell on the astonished face of the farmer. "Mr. Mary," he cried. "Yes, of course. Who did you think it was?" said Mary, coming forward as he came out of the mist, and their fears subsided. He seemed suddenly to diminish to ordinary hobbit size. He was riding a pony, and the scarf was swathed round his neck and over his chin to keep out the Frodo sprang out of the wagon to greet him. "So there you are at last," said Mary. "I was beginning to wonder if you would turn up at all today, and I was just going to sup when it grew foggy. I came across the road towards Stock and rode up to see if you had fallen in any dishes, but I'm blessed if I know which way you have come." "Where did you find them, Mr. Baggins? In your duck pond?" "No, I caught them trespassing," said the farmer, "and nearly set my dogs on him." Thanks so much for watching and listening. Page 127. But they'll tell you all the story, I've no doubt. If you'll excuse me, Mr. Mary and Mr. Frodo, and all, I best be turning for home. Mrs. Maggot will be worrying with the night getting thick. He backed the wagon into the lane and turned it. "Well, good night to you all," he said. "It's been a queer day, but no mistake. All's well as ends well. Though perhaps we should not say that until we reach our own doors. I'll not deny that. I'd be glad now when I do." He lit his lanterns and got up. Suddenly produced a large basket from under the seat. "I was nearly forgetting," he said. Mrs. Maggot put this up for Mr. Baggins with her compliments." He handed it down and moved off, followed by a chorus of thanks and goodbyes, good nights. They watched the pale rings of the light round the lanterns. Thanks so much for watching and listening. Page 127. As they dwindled into the foggy night, suddenly Frodo laughed. From the covered basket he held, the scent of mushrooms was rising. Chapter 5. A Conspiracy Unmasked. "Now we had better get home ourselves," said Mary. "There's something funny about all this, I see, but it must wait till we get in." They turned down the fairy lane, which was straight and well kept and edged with large white mashed stones. In 100 yards or so brought them to the riverbank where there was a broad wooden landing stage. A large flat ferry boat was moored beside it. The white bollards near the water's edge glimmered in the light of 2 lamps on high posts. Behind them, the mists of the flat fields were now above the hedges. The water before them was dark, with only a few curling wisps like steam among the reeds of the bank. There seemed to be less fog. Thanks so much for watching and listening. Page 128. On the further side, Mary led the pony over a gangway onto the ferry. Jessica Mahoney, ASMR, and the others followed. Mary then pushed slowly off with a long pole. The Brandywine followed slow and broad before them. On the other side, the bank was steep, and up it a winding path climbed from the further landing. Lamps were twinkling there. Behind loomed up the Buck Hill, and out of it, through stray shrouds of mist, shone many round windows, yellow and red. They were the windows of Brandy Hall, the ancient home of the Brandybucks. Long ago, Gorhendad, head of Old Buck family, one of the eldest in the Marish, indeed in the Shire, had crossed the river, which was the original boundary of the land eastward. He built and excavated Brandy Hall, changed his name to Brandybuck, and settled down to become master of what is virtually a small independent country. His family grew. Thanks so much for watching and listening. Page 128. And after his days continued to grow until Brandy Hall, Jessica Mahoney, ASMR, occupied the whole of the low hill and 3 large front doors, many side doors, and built about 100 windows. The Brandybucks and their numerous dependents then began to burrow, and later to build all round about. That was the origin of Buckland, a thickly inhabited strip between the river of the Old Forest, a sort of colony from the Shire. Its chief village was Buckleberry, clustering in the banks and slopes behind Brandy Hall. The people in the Marish were friendly with Bucklanders, and the authority of the masters of the hall, as the head of Brandybuck family was called, was still acknowledged by farmers between Stock and Rushy. But most of the folk of the old Shire regarded the Bucklanders as peculiar, half-foreigners as it were, though, as a matter of fact, they were not very different from the other hobbits of the Four Fartings, except in one point. Thanks so much for watching and listening. Page 129.